All right, let's get into it. The name EASA Airworthiness Directive 2025-0201 sounds, well, it sounds pretty technical, right? Maybe a little dry. But trust me, behind that official title is a really fascinating story about aviation safety. It's about a hidden danger and the race to stop a potential disaster before an airplane even gets off the ground. So, I want you to imagine something. You're the pilot, you're in the cockpit of this amazing high-performance plane. You go to start the engine, you hear the turbines spooling up, and then, bam, every single screen in front of you just goes black. All your critical info, gone, vanished. What do you even do in that situation? Well, this isn't just a what-if scenario. This is exactly what happened, and it's what kicked off the safety alert we're going to unpack today. Okay, so let's actually look at the document we're talking about. It's called an Airworthiness Directive, or just AD for short. This one comes from EASA, which is the European Union Aviation Safety Agency. Now, the easiest way to think of an AD is like a mandatory safety recall, but for airplanes, and I mean mandatory, this isn't a friendly suggestion, it's an order. You have to do it. And check out just how specific this thing is. We're not talking about every plane in the sky here, no. It's targeted at one specific model, the Pilatus PC-12/47E, and even a super precise range of serial numbers. That right there tells you that investigators knew exactly what they were looking for. They'd zeroed in on a very particular problem and a very particular group of aircraft. All right, so we know which planes are affected, but the big question is, why? Why did this directive have to be issued in the first place? Let's trace the chain of events that leads to a cockpit full of terrifyingly blank screens. You know, it all kicks off with something totally routine, starting the engine. But what happened in the incident they investigated was this. The huge power draw from starting the engine made the plane's battery voltage dip. And that dip, just for a moment, was enough to cause the entire avionics system to shut down. Now, the avionics, that's basically the plane's electronic brain, right? Everything from navigation to engine monitoring. And of course, when the avionics go dark, so do all the screens. It's a really simple but really critical domino effect. Just try to put yourself in the pilot's seat for a second. You are, for all intents and purposes, flying blind. And you haven't even left the runway. At the most critical moment, engine start, every single piece of information you need to make sure that engine is healthy has just disappeared. Okay, but you might be thinking, a blank screen on the ground, is that really so dangerous that it needs this huge safety directive? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Because the real danger isn't just about what the pilot can't see on the screen. It's about what's happening completely unseen, deep inside that engine. It all comes down to one critical piece of data, the interstage turbine temperature, or ITT. Think of the ITT as the engine's temperature, like when you're sick. It's a vital sign. It's measuring the incredibly intense heat between the turbine stages. And if that temperature spikes too high, even for just a couple of seconds, you can get serious, permanent engine damage. And this is the real kicker, the part that makes this so serious. It wasn't just that the pilot couldn't see the temperature reading. The directive points out that when the avionics shut down, it also knocked out the automated safety system. You know, the one that's supposed to stop the engine from overheating in the first place. So you've got a dangerous situation that's completely invisible, and the primary safety net designed to catch it is gone. Yeah, the directive itself doesn't pull any punches. It spells out exactly what's at stake. It says an undetected temperature spike could lead to, and I'm quoting here, reduced turbine blade structural integrity. What does that mean in plain English? It means the engine literally starts to tear itself apart from the inside out. And where does that lead? Well, to the ultimate nightmare scenario. Damaged turbine blades can cause a complete engine failure. Now, imagine that doesn't happen on the ground. Imagine it happens during takeoff, or when you're cruising at 30,000 feet. A simple blink screen on the ground could snowball into a total loss of power in the air. That is why EASA moves so fast and so decisively on this. So, faced with this pretty scary potential problem, what did EASA do about it? What was the fix they ordered? Let's take a look. And just to remind everyone, we're talking about a directive here, not a friendly tip. For aviation authorities, an AD is a legally binding order. If you don't comply, your plane doesn't fly. It's grounded, period. It really is that serious. And you can really feel the urgency when you look at the timeline. Operators had just 30 days to get this done. 30. In the world of aviation maintenance and operations, that is an incredibly tight deadline. It's a huge red flag that says, this is a high priority problem and we need to fix it right now. So what was the fix? Well, it was actually procedural, focused on the pilot's actions. Within that 30-day window, every operator had to do 3 things. First, update their official pilot's operating handbook. Second, put in a brand new, safer engine start procedure. And third, make sure every single one of their pilots knew about the change and was trained on it. Fast. But here's where the story takes another interesting turn. After all this mandatory, urgent action, it turns out it's not the final fix. Yeah, if you read the fine print, EASA says this AD is considered an interim action. They even say that further AD action may follow. What that tells us is that the new procedure, while it's a super important safety step, doesn't actually fix the root cause of the problem, the hardware or software glitch. Think of it like a really, really important Band-Aid, not a cure. And so that leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about, right? The current fix is basically a patch for the human, a new set of instructions for the pilot. But what does a permanent fix look like? What's the real engineering solution? Is it a beefier battery system, a whole new way of wiring the avionics, maybe a simple software update? This directive took care of the immediate danger, which is great. But the core engineering puzzle, that's still out there, waiting to be solved.